Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the past 24 hours for the day of 1339 for the 24th of October. So we're going to start off from the south again. Over the Kherson front, there is no Russian Defense Ministry report. They did a weekly summary for their yesterday's summary, yesterday's SITREP. So I don't map their weekly summaries. So anyway, Ukrainian report Russians attack the Antonovsky Bridge again, continue to attack. The Antonovsky Bridge is this bridge, in case you do not know. So yeah, that's all. We don't know. That's all. We go on to the Zaporizhia front. Over the Zaporizhia front, the Orkhiv offensive allegedly continues with fighting reported at Novo Danilivka and Novo Andriivka. Fighting is also reported at Stepove. So that's all from the Orkhiv and the Kayamsky sector. Yeah, it looks very subdued when you do not have the Russian reports. Moving into the Huaypole sector, fighting is reported mainly over in the northeast of the sector. Fighting reported at Novokrychorivka. I need to slow down my mouse, my mouse is a bit too fast. Novovasilivsky, Okonishe, Uspenivka, Rybitne, and Zlahoda. And the Russian forces captured this area here. I have covered this in the frontline changes report. The main action right now is the same. The Russians are trying to capture the crossing around here. They are trying to cross over the Uspenivka, and then there's this flanking operation. They want to take out this salient, and they're going to flank south into the rear from the north. So that's the main action in this sector from what we have for the past 24 hours. So we move on. So that's all from the Huaypole sector. Into the Komar front. At the Komar front, so let me adjust everything. Komar front, we have fighting reported at Vishneve, Verbove, Oleksievka, Sosnivka. The Ukrainians are allegedly, according to the Russian reports, attacking these sectors, trying to keep the Russians at bay in this sector. Oh, there's some lag somehow. Fighting is reported at Alexandrograd, Zeleny High, Ivanivka, Filia, Dashne, and Horikove. The Russian mapping have claimed a massive capture, trying to reflect the Russian Defense Ministry's report of the capture of Ivanivka. So that is the main action. So this push in the north seems to be pretty legit. Filia side is a bit still not so clear whether if there's something serious over there. Not sure if the Russians really want to kill off this salient, possible. And the Russians are still pushing west, mainly around this sector, but I think they are getting helped by the Ukrainian defenses along this area here. So that's the main thing happening around here. So what happens is that this area doesn't work, so the Russians push north. So that if this doesn't work, that's push north. So it might be the kind of situation. So it's very difficult to defend for the Ukrainians from the Ukrainian perspective, because if you overinvest in one area, the Russians will just move to another area. And but you can overinvest in one front, but then you do not have enough manpower to actually go on the offensive. That also quite pointless. So that is they're always on the back foot. So moving into the Pokrov front. In the Pokrov front, I think I want to zoom in a bit more. Yeah. So fighting is reported at Udashne, Pokrov. There's further frontline changes in the in the western part of Pokrov. Fighting is reported at Lysivka. Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Promin, with fighting being reported over there. Minograd is also being fought over. Novoekonomichny, Cheverny, Liman, Rodinsky, and Nikhanorivka. So that is a part of the breakout zone already. So in this sector, the Russians mainly is attacking into Pokrov to capture Pokrov city. They are finishing the war on the east and the southeast and south of Minograd. That is the main action around here. This is a static line. There's a flanking operation continuing over at the Rodinske, Chevening, Liman region north of Minograd. So this is still the same thing strategically, but just that we now have the Battle of Pokrov to look out for. Moving further up north into the breakout zone, the Pokrov breakout zone, we have we have mentioned Nikandorevka. Fighting is reported over in Mayak as well, and Rusinya, which is part of the Konstantinivka front. Not much things happening around here. So the Ukrainians based on what we know previously, the Ukrainians are on the counteroffensive in the north, and while the Russians are pushing towards Charkove, then the Ukrainians are pushing from the other way. So it's a bit of a weird shift towards the east. Otherwise, yeah, that's mainly about it. The Russians are trying to take out this chain of settlements with attacks in other places. So we shall wait and see how this goes. Moving into the Konstantinivka front, so pushing east. In the Konstantinivka front, we have fighting reported over in Plishevka, or Nelipivka, Shebenivka, Bilahora, Priteshne, Shavone, as well as geolocation of Russian forces entering into Konstantinivka. This is actually pretty important because this means that the battle for Konstantinivka has begun. There is a geolocation of a FPV drone strike on Ukrainian position. The main action right now is still the consolidation of the position west of Torex, with the Russian forces pushing out and create the new front line north of the reservoir, but tentatively not moving as fast as the Russians would want. Maybe the incursion into Konstantinivka will draw the Ukrainian attention and reduce the number of troops that will be deployed to the south of Konstantinivka. There is a possibility. Rusinya is a static line, so I'm not going to take too much care about that. So that's for the Konstantinivka front's strategic situation. We move to the Bakhmut front. So Shavone is part of the Bakhmut front. Further up north, there's nothing. I think there's a shelling. Oh, that's very far away. Okay, never mind. So over in the Liman-Siversk front. Liman side, there's nothing. So over the Siversk front, there is a Russian announcement of the capture of Dronivka. So the Russian defense mission announced Dronivka is captured. This achieved the first step of this northern flanking operation. Fighting is reported at Srebryanka. Most likely they will then push towards Platonivka and Zakine. That's what I believe that they're going to do. Fighting is reported at Vimka. Geolocation confirmed Russian straightening of the front line. Fighting at Zvenivka and Berezne. So the south is still the two-pronged attack in the south, whereas the flanking operations north of Siversk continues. The capture of Dronivka is pretty important. They will go to Zakine, take the crossing, and then they can actually hit to the rear and take out Kalenke, and that will cut out the other crossing, and Siversk will be operationally encircled. So that's pretty serious. This movement from the north is cannot be understated how dangerous this is for the Ukrainians. So we will continue to monitor the situation in the Siversk front. I think this front line is GG. I don't think this Siversk front, is going to live to see 2026. I don't think it will last to next year. I would imagine the same for Pokrov and even Kupyansk. So all these, and Vershans as well. So all these cities that currently having battles. Siversk have not entered battle yet, but the front line is collapsing. So all these major areas that we have been covering for the past 1 year plus, all these areas are going to collapse, and I think they are not going to survive to 2026. So moving into the Oskil Liman front, we have fighting reported at Merne, Drobisheve, Chandroholove, Serine, Karpivka. Same action. The action is just trying to capture Novoselivka and Drobisheve. This is a continuation, as well as Stavki. So they are trying to take out this salient. So the action again to push to Svятогорsk. The northern ones is to push towards in the direction of Yakutsk or Rupsi, and then go towards Oskil. So that's the action in this sector here. I remember in 2022, these areas here were not overrun early on. This was a part of the offensive where the Russians keep pushing, as they move and try to capture Izium and everything. And I remember talking about Rupsi, Oskil and all these places. And yeah, the Russians have to recapture all these places again. So yeah, a lot of people died. That's the nature of war. Moving into the Borova front, nothing is being reported. Over to the Kupyansk front. At the Kupyansk front, Ukrainians reported fighting at Bischane and Stepova Novoselivka. Geolocation of a Ukrainian launched a massive daring armored push. Is led mainly by 2 porcupine tanks. So the tank, instead of a turtle tank, where is a mesh armor, right? That is like a turtle. This tank is in a totally different style. Is the spike one, the spiky one. So it looks like a porcupine. So it's a porcupine tank, I call it. And 2 of them, and they just undergo countless FPV drone strike, one after another, until it got taken out. So the Russians are still pushing through the Pischane and Stepova Novoselivka. They're trying to consolidate this position, whereas the battle of Kupyansk continue. This push north is probably an attempt to try to do a flanking operation. So they're probably trying to do a quick capture of Holubivka and Radkivka. Maybe plant some troops all along all these areas here, and then cut off the Russians at Kupyansk. I think this is a daring raid, and I think this is a good idea, but the scale of it is too small. In my opinion, they need to make the scale bigger. They cannot have just 2 tanks, 2 porcupine tanks. I think they need 10, and then supported by multiple other smaller vehicles, and then land at least 100 troops across the entire region. Then they will be able to totally cut off this area and create an encirclement, or at least an operational encirclement on the Russian troops in Kupyansk. This raid is too small. But this is just my opinion. What do I know? I'm not a general, right? My actual military rank is only first sergeant. I'm just a sergeant. If I have stayed on for another year or 2, I will be a staff sergeant. But I'm not a general. So objectively speaking, I do not know what I'm talking about. But as an armchair general, I totally think that is not enough troops, and they got totally wiped out over here. And the troops that was stranded around got taken out by FPV drone one by one. So this is most likely. So on principle basis, this is still marked as capture. This chain of territory is still marked as capture on our mapping, because this is our principle. This is our methodology. However, in reality, most likely the Ukrainians did not have any foothold. They probably have maybe the earlier parts, maybe around Rakivka, the forest around here. It's possible the Ukrainians retaken some of this position. Maybe the facility may have a few soldiers, but that's all. The Russians may probably overrun this position pretty quickly on the same day even. So like I always say, the map is only a reference. It's not reality. Don't take it for real. This is just based on the best information that we have. This is not reality. I'm not sure how often I need to say this, but sometimes people do once in a blue moon comments about nonsense. And it's like, yeah, you have to understand, you do not know what's the truth. Not even Putin or Zelensky know what's the truth, because they can only know what's happening on the ground based on reports. And the reports can be very vague. No one knows what is the reality. So it's important to know that. And so this is Voreshna, and on the Voreshna front, fighting is reported over at Odradne, Bolhievka, and Kenyamka. Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Bolhievka And this is part of the first of the settlements that Russians need to capture. They already mentioned Troivka and Topoli previously, and Kanyamka. So they need to go for Volochanske, Odradne, Kolodziasne, and then they will be able to complete their mission to take out this entire sector. So otherwise, yeah, this corner front will continue to fight on. And one more thing, for the people who keep saying that, oh, this map is old, the information is old or whatnot. I'm not a breaking news channel. I don't report breaking news that often because usually it's wrong. And I only report information that had the past day's action. Summaries, frontline changes for the past 1 day or 2 days. The situation for the past 1 day or 2 days. I don't do right now what the fuck is happening. And then honestly, the sources that I follow is probably the best there is. Any other sources I have tried. There's only these few big ones, and based on my experience, many of them that I no longer use is because there's always a lot of mistakes. They are always claiming things that never happened. That's why they are all dropped, including one of the major ones is DivGen. Surya maps I don't use because I have been following a number of geolocation channels, and with all these geolocation, I have a good level of mapping that I'm happy with, which is why I don't do Surya maps, because ultimately I do not know where his source is, and he's not in Russia or Ukraine. So I have no idea what his source is, and he does repeat updates coming from Deep State UA or maybe Ryba, and I just feels very duplicated. I don't want to repeat information, because if he's not the first source, then he's not the first source. So for example, Deep State UA would never ever map anything coming from the Russians. Ryba will also never ever map anything coming from Deep State UA. That's why it's good to use their mapping for my mapping, because if people are not too different from DPA, that they are like secondary third hand source or third hand mapping like mine, then what's the point of copying someone that is basically the same as DPA? So important to note. And if they are always ahead, then something is wrong with their mapping. Because all the information is on my mapping. There is no other information. So if they have other mapping, they might have made it up. They might have, based on their reading, they imagine that certain areas are captured. This is my opinion. So if you're not happy, you can always follow other people. But this is my principle. I'm not going to change. I've been covering this for years now. This has always been the case. So that's why I'm confident with the information I'm presenting, because these are all very, very firm informations. If it's not firm, I will tell you it's not firm, right? I will tell you it's a claim. So fighting is reported in Volchansk. The battle of Volchansk continue, and fighting is high K. Nothing particularly new based on Ukrainian reports. So the battle for Volchansk continue, and Russia seems to have this second pronged attack coming out from this sector. I have mentioned, I think in the frontline changes, or maybe yesterday's SITREP, about the danger of Russian forces breaking out into the rear positions. One of the first target will be Bili Kolodzias. Another one will be Venia Pisarivka, Senenikove. These are all very important towns that used to have major battles as well. Buhaivka perhaps as well. So we shall see. We might return to the old Kharkiv front days, where some of these names that we used to know, like Bayrak, Venety Saltiv, Stary Saltiv, Fedorevka, Permeha, Ukrainka, Shetakove, all these we all used to be very acquainted with long time ago in 2022. They might return. So Volchansk is a very important city. Moving on to the Sumy front. At the Sumy front, there is a geolocation in the rear where the Geran drone strike some Ukrainian multiple launch rocket system, which near this Stepovе, which is kind of a surprise, that they are using a slow drone to hit MLRS. So that's a bit weird. There's no reports at Sumy because Ukrainians do not talk about Sumy, in specific terms, and the Russians is doing the weekly SITREP. So that's all. So this is the summary for the day of 1339 for the 24th of October. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys. Happy birthday to you if your birthday today. If it's not birthday, I'm not wishing you, no. You should have a bad day, and I'll see you guys in the next update.